was expecting bigger.
Yeah, I'm crazy. I'm nuts.
Hello, folks.
People think there's nothing out here. There's a lot of activity out here.
And sex life of the day.
Middle of nowhere. Definitely salty.
That's cool.
Very remote.
Hey, John Bartell here again on the Backroads. This time we're going to be checking out some of California's lesser known attractions. I'm going to take you up to the mountaintops of Tuolumne County all the way down to the Basin of Death Valley. Now, a quick note to the show here. All of the stories you're about to see were shot before the pandemic, so you're not going to see any social distancing or masks in these stories. That said, let's head over to California's largest lake, the Salton Sea, where it's okay to go bananas at the International Banana Museum. Well, to find this place, you'll have to keep your eyes peeled. The International Banana Museum has odd hours and it's not well advertised. So you'll just have to look for the bait shop and liquor store just outside of North Shore. And if you're lucky enough to see the bright yellow Camaro outside, chances are Fred Garbut's inside spouting out some of his favorite banana puns.
Usually I tell people when they're ready to go, I'd say, well, it's hard to see you split, or don't peel out. You were so appealing.
Better prepare yourself. There's a bunch more where that came from.
Yeah, I'm crazy. I'm nuts. Here, come see this crazy banana. It's like, if that's what brings him in, whatever.
And bring him in he does. Visitors from all over the world love to come and marvel over Fred's side-splitting collection of more than 25,000 banana-related items, including this appealing musical device.
But this is the electric banana phonograph.
Fred's day job is building tennis courts and running the family liquor store. The whole banana museum idea came to him after seeing a random eBay listing.
So he ended up taking my offer, and then I was still hemming and hawing, do I really want to go through with this? But I went ahead and jumped in with both feet.
Well, if there's one thing I've learned about roadside attractions, the destination needs to have a unique or intriguing name, and this next attraction has just that. Next stop, Zzyzx. It's an abandoned health spa located on the westernmost edge of the Mojave National Preserve. Seems like this place is abandoned.
Well, you wouldn't be the first to think that.
Not only is Zzyzx a real place, it has a real pronunciation. Zzyzx.
The word was coined by Curtis Springer. He was notorious for always getting the last word.
So until the same time tomorrow, we'll say bye-bye and God bless you all.
If Dr. Curtis Springer had his way, Zzyzx would be the last word in the English language, the phone book, and the dictionary. And for about 30 years, it kinda was.
The heyday of this place would have been mid-50s through about early 60s or so. And then it just sort of started deteriorating.
Jason is the current caretaker of Zzyzx, which is currently a desert research facility run by California State University. You're actually doing something out here.
Oh yeah. People think there's nothing out here. There's a lot of activity out here.
Before the college students in the laboratories, Zzyzx was a mineral health spa built by none other than Dr. Springer. Dr. Springer was running what some may call a fake health spa for the rich. In fact, Dr. Springer wasn't even a doctor.
The American Medical Association on record dubbed him the king of quacks.
The word Zzyzx never made it into the dictionary, but in a way, Springer got the last word.
We keep all the old Springer names, so the two-story building he called the Castle, so we still call this the Castle.
From a desert health spa to a mountaintop dude ranch, this next stop takes us to Tuolumne County, to the historic Kennedy Meadows Resort. Well, Highway 108 up Sonora Pass will get you to Kennedy Meadows, but once you park your car, the only way to get around is on foot or by hoof.
Very remote, yeah.
Matt Bloom and his son Spencer run the Pack Station and Resort, a historic cattle ranch that maintains the traditions of ranchers before them.
Thomas Kennedy, back in the 1800s, came here to graze cattle and homesteaded this whole area.
These days, city slickers do most of the riding at Kennedy Meadows, but Matt's son Spencer does his best to make you feel like a real cowboy. You know any yodeling songs?
No.
Well, Spencer's not much of a music guy, but fortunately I am. Play some of that yodeling music. Unfortunately, on the day we rode, smoke from distant wildfires obstructed some of the mountain views, but to make up for it, Spencer took us on a scenic ride over the middle fork of the Stanislaus River. That is way up here. All right, enough horsing around here. There's something fishy going on in Death Valley, and it's swimming up the briny waters of Salt Creek. Inyo County is home to the endangered pupfish. These are pupfish, Death Valley's largest aquatic vertebrates, and the best place to see them is right here in the balmy waters of Salt Creek. They're a little disappointingly small. I was expecting bigger.
Well, for the desert and a stream in the desert, they're huge.
Kevin Wilson is an aquatic ecologist with the National Park Service, a profession you may also not expect to be out here in the desert, but he says he's actually pretty busy.
It's amazing. There's over 800 springs in Death Valley itself.
Measuring in at a whopping 1 to 2 inches, the pupfish is not something you'll see at your local fish market, but what they lack in size, they make up for in hardcore resilience.
These fish can live in extreme environments. They live actually in water that can be saltier than the ocean.
Not impressed? Well, wait till you hear how hot the water gets.
They can actually survive, say, in water that's 60 degrees, up to water that's up to 110.
Pupfish survive in fragile ecosystems, eating small bugs and algae. Despite their miserable living conditions, they're actually happy fish, and scientists name them accordingly.
They observed their behavior and they kind of acted like puppies.
California's largest lake is home to a growing art scene. Bombay Beach is where Burning Man art installations go to die. Next stop, the Salton Sea in Imperial County. At first glance, this looks like a bombing range. At first glance, you might mistake this for an environmental disaster. And at first glance, you wouldn't think this was a vacation destination. But if you take a second look at Bombay Beach, you'll find this place was all of these things and a whole lot more.
This was a bombing range for the Air Force and, testing different bombs. And
So they used to blow things up out
they
here.
used to blow things up.
It's been decades since military planes blew up anything at Bombay Beach. In fact, the only plane you'll find around here is this one. These days, artists like Rebel Dharma inhabit the desert town. A few years ago, he started the Bombay Beach Arts and Culture Center.
It's just freedom out here to do what you want.
Among the dilapidated trailer homes and barren beaches are a number of randomly placed art installations, many of which were part of Burning Man's past. The Salton Sea is essentially a big hole in the ground. A millennia of flooding and drought constantly affects the sea's water level. Farming, irrigation, and water diversion have only made things worse here. Fish are now dying and the sea is going dry.
And the town sort of went down into it's almost a ghost town.
Had it not been for artists and the eye-catching installations, Bombay Beach probably would have turned into a ghost town. Romance, sex, and some of the most expensive gasoline in California. You're watching Bartell's Backroads. Those stories and more after the break. Got a soft spot for romantic films? Well, I suggest that you head over to the theater at the Shields Date Garden in Indio. There's a good chance you may just fall in love with California's most sexy fruit.
You said you were in love.
From the sky, the palm orchards of Riverside County don't look like the set of an erotic film.
By your love.
And from the ground, the dirt-covered rows don't exactly scream passion. But let me assure you, there's a whole lot of womanizing going on here. There's a sexy story happening in the city of Indio, but don't worry, it's a G-rated story. And you watch the show right here at Shields Date Garden.
The Shields Date Garden is the only place in the world where you can see and hear the romance and sex life of the date.
During the 1950s, dates were all the rage, and the Coachella Valley was littered with date palm orchards. So, in an attempt to stand out, creative director Jessica Deneau says Mr. Shields made a provocatively named movie.
It made them wonder, what's going on over there? What's happening? What is this whole romance and sex life of the date?
Including sex and romance in a movie title may have been racy back in the 1950s, but in all reality, the film was just a slideshow of how date trees were pollinated.
The large, good-looking flower that I'm holding is the male flower from the male palm.
Mr. Shields has since passed on, but his film still plays every day at the Shields Theater on Highway 111 in Indio.
Shake out the pollen and collect it in small cotton powder puffs, and use these puffs to pollinate the female blooms.
Date palms are some of the oldest cultivated fruits on record, and it's also some of the most expensive to produce. That's because it takes 15 years for a tree to mature. Then, to get a large crop of dates, the palm buds have to be pollinated by hand.
There has never been an organically growing date farm. It has always required the assistance of man.
You're gonna want to gas up before visiting this next desert town. Fuel in Amboy requires deep pockets, and for good reason. I found out the hard way while traveling through the lonely roads of San Bernardino County. This is the last place you want to run out of gas. Middle of nowhere. Zero. Empty. The Mojave National Preserve is more than 25,000 square miles, and there's not a single gas station inside the park. But if you're heading south from the visitor center in Kelso, you may have enough fumes in your tank to get you down to Route 66, so you can fill up at Roy's in the desert town of Amboy. Gasoline is the main attraction in Amboy.
Everybody running out of gas here. Everybody's saying, I forgot to gas up over there.
And if you find yourself running on empty, Manny Lopez will gladly fill you up. What is the gas price here in Amboy?
$5.50 regular.
$5.50. Now, before you start screaming highway robbery, you need to understand a few things about Amboy.
Back in 1960, there was 240 employees working in this place. Yeah, now it's 4 of us.
Today, the only thing keeping Amboy on the map is the people living here, Manny and the postmaster, Vanessa Paez. How many customers do you get every day?
Actually, like 2 or 3 a day.
Here in Amboy, people come and go. That doesn't help the population, but it is good for business.
All right. Oh, let's go get the money.
After the break, I'll ride a Hollywood movie train and drink beer inside a gun shop. Don't go away. You're watching Bartell's Backroads. Welcome back to Bartell's Backroads. Earlier this year, I did a little time traveling on Hollywood's most famous steam train. Next stop, all aboard the Railtown movie queen. She's one of the oldest icons in movie history, casted in more than 200 films, TV shows, and commercials. Her name is Movie Queen, and she's Tuolumne County's biggest celebrity. Contrary to common belief, you won't find Movie Queen in Hollywood. Her home is here at the 1897 Railtown State Historic Park in Jamestown.
If you've seen an old Western, it's probably that locomotive that you're seeing.
Movie Queen is her stage name, but engine number 3 is what park staff like Jackie Olivaria know her as. The 10-wheeled Rogers locomotive was built in 1891, and had it not been for Hollywood, this steamer would have been destined for the scrapyard. It's not until Movie Queen's boilers are stoked that her familiar features start to show. Movie buffs may recognize her from this film, Back to the Future 3. This train was in Back to the Future, huh?
Yeah, it was.
So, are we gonna be able to get this thing up to 88 miles per hour?
Not with me on it.
Despite what Doc and Marty were able to accomplish in the movie, engine number 3 can't accelerate anywhere near time travel speed.
We were probably only doing about 10 miles an hour.
Yes, that's movie magic for you. Well, there's few places where you can buy a beer and a gun in the same place, but if you're visiting the gold rush town of Sonora, you can do just that. Old Town Sonora has changed over the years. The gold rush town now serves fewer miners and a whole lot more tourists. But there is still one place where you can get a taste of what old Sonora used to be. Welcome to the Sportsman, a licensed gun shop and bar.
I'm not sure if we are the last. I'd love if anybody knows.
Steve Kane is both the barkeep and the gun salesman, so his job title is a little complex.
I prefer the old term storekeeper.
Inside the odd shop, ammunition is within arm's reach of the bottle opener, and the bar table is just steps away from the firearms. Getting a permit to build a place like this anywhere else in California would probably be impossible. It is, unless you have the same grandfathered-in law permits like the Sportsman has.
The bar has not been shut down for any length of time in the last 73 years.
Now, a number of owners have stepped up to keep the business going, but it was this man, a World War II veteran and Sonora native, who held the Sportsman's first gun/alcohol license.
This is Vic Filiberti, our original owner, who opened it in 1947.
The Sportsman is rich with history, only kept alive by the faithful patrons and the multitasking storekeeps. A con artist, a cowboy shootout, and a giant castle. It's all part of the biggest lie in Death Valley. Next stop, Scotty's Castle. Death Valley. At first glance, this looks like a horrible place to build a home. Not many people can say that they've bought land from the National Park Service.
It is pretty rare.
This is Scotty's Castle, located on top of the biggest lie ever told in Death Valley National Park.
To put it in a nutshell, he was a con man.
Walter Scott, aka Death Valley Scotty.
So he claimed to have a gold mine.
Scotty thought if he was gonna create a fake gold mine, why not have it in a scary sounding place like Death Valley? Scotty made tons of money off conning wealthy businessmen, but the con came to an immediate end. A Mr. Albert Johnson decided to check up on Scotty's mine.
He called the bluff. That was a big problem for Scotty. And so what Scotty did was he staged an ambush.
Long story short, the fake ambush outside the fake gold mine ended in failure. But instead of calling the authorities, Mr. Johnson did this.
Instead, Albert Johnson kept sending money to Scotty.
Albert Johnson had such an exciting time in Death Valley that the wealthy insurance company owner returned year after year to visit Scotty.
It took them 9 years to build everything that's here, 1922 to 1931.
Eventually, Mr. Johnson's wife talked him into buying land and building this castle. Being the storyteller he was, Scotty told visitors he built the castle. In the end, Scotty lived in the castle until the day he died in 1954.
Scotty wanted to be buried on that hill where he could overlook his castle.
In 1970, the castle was sold back to the National Park Service. Restoration efforts are nearing completion, and now the National Park is offering limited tours. A swimming hole for the gods and the world's oldest juniper tree. That and more when Bartell's Backroads returns. Welcome back to Bartell's Backroads. When people say size doesn't matter, they've probably never stood next to the world's tallest juniper. Next stop, the forests of Tuolumne County. Located off Highway 108 near the Donnell Lake Vista, the Bennett juniper tree is rooted down a spider web of Forest Service roads.
This is the biggest juniper tree in the United States.
First discovered by Basque sheep herders in the 1920s, the Bennett juniper tree was named after naturalist Clarence Bennett, the man who determined the juniper tree's age.
She is a 3,000, they estimate 3,000-year-old Western juniper.
3,000 years is old, but some botanists estimate it could be as old as 6,000 years. That would make it the oldest juniper tree on the planet, standing at 78 feet tall. And get this, it takes 11 adults holding hands just to circle the tree's trunk.
So it's almost double the size of an average juniper tree.
Ellie Rout is with the Mother Lode Land Trust, a nonprofit that's next in line to protect the ancient juniper. Before her, Ken Brunges with the Save the Redwoods League spent 20 years camped out on this 3-acre plot of private land just to make sure that visitors were respectful.
We're protecting it from getting loved to death.
The Bennett juniper tree has survived floods, fire, and drought. It's California's 5th oldest tree, and if humans respect the old girl, she may just make it another 3,000 to 6,000 years. Well, just south of the Bennett juniper tree is a swimming hole fit for the gods. Next stop, the Clavey River. So wild are the waters and canyons of the Clavey River that man has never developed it. It's protected by giant granite boulders, and at the center of this remote Eden is a Tuolumne County secret, a swimming hole known as God's Bath. Not an easy path. God's Bath is located in a cell service dead spot in the Stanislaus National Forest. It is not illegal to visit this swimming hole, but locals here have worked hard to keep the access point a secret, and you'll understand why when we get there. I'm going to show you God's Bath for 2 reasons. 1, so you can visit this place virtually, and 2, so you can see what happens when visitors don't respect nature. Don't be this person. Locals will tell you that social media ruined this place. God's Bath is no longer a secret, and after influencers take their pictures, they leave their trash. God's Bath is truly a place of unique beauty. Millions of years of erosion have carved out underwater granite caves. And until recently, this place was pollution-free. California is home to the lowest elevation point in the United States. How low, you ask? Well, to find out, you have to go to Badwater Basin in Death Valley. Located just 15 miles from the Furnace Creek Visitor Center in Death Valley National Park, Badwater Basin is at the bottom of the biggest hole you'll probably ever stand in. 282 feet below sea level. Formed by earthquakes and water evaporation, Badwater Basin is not only the lowest point in California, but also the nation. To give you a little perspective where sea level is, it's right up there. Probably the first thing you'll notice when walking in the basin is how dry it is. You're definitely gonna want your chapstick out here. It is really dry. The salt flats in Badwater cover nearly 200 square miles, making it the largest protected salt flat in the world. It's definitely salty. And a lot of that salt comes from the surrounding mountains. Rain or snow carries those minerals down to the basin, then it piles up in Badwater puddles and evaporates in the desert heat. Well, if you like those California destinations, there's a whole lot more where that came from. Just head over to abc10.com/backroads and check out our interactive map. It has more than 200 destinations there for you to check out. You can even make your own road trip. Then, if you have an idea for me, just send me a message on my Facebook. I'm John Bartell. Hope to see you on the Backroads.